Hey guys, Omni here. We are back for the breakdown for episode 2 of Hawkeye over in New Rockstars. Eric Voss breaking down our details and hidden moments we might have missed throughout the episode. We just did episode 1. If you missed that video, I'm late, I know. Last week was very busy. I was out of town over the weekend, so I'm catching up here today. I'm doing all 3 of the latest episode breakdowns here today, so we can kind of catch up on everything that's been going and that's been said and done. So hope you enjoy. I hope you stick around because we're going to be going through the rest of these, and hopefully nothing throws me off track and I'll be able to do these as we are doing the episodes now for the last half of the show. So that all being said, if you're not subscribed to New Rockstars, please do so, and let's dive into this thing. Here we go.
Stars, I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Hawkeye episode 2. And are we looking at 2 Hawkeyes, or is there an echo in here? I'm sorry, please don't click away. This episode was filled with Marvel Easter eggs and interesting visual details and clues for what could be coming next in this murder mystery. So I'm gonna break it down scene by scene for everything you might have missed. And a reminder that you can get our new limited edition merch design inspired by Hawkeye at newrockstarsmerch.com. If you get this latest obsession, you'll get the added bonus option of writing in a custom shout out for our Hawkeye Inside Marvel after show. The episode opens with Clint and Kate. Kate still in shock from the tracksuit attack and seeing Armand's corpse, but Clint keeps a level head, evoking that same reassuring energy that he showed a similarly panicked Wanda Maximoff back in Age of Ultron.
That's the best scene in Age of Ultron to me.
And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense, but if you step out that door, you are an Avenger.
Marvel head Kevin Feige actually said that moment back then was what convinced him to greenlight this Hawkeye series. The Hawkeye title logo is taken directly from the title design of the Fraction AHA comics. Here you can see an arrow bullseyeing the A, followed by a shorter arrow hitting the same exact spot. Oh, the big one's Clint, the little one's Kate. Just showing how both of them are essentially the world's greatest archer. Clint escorts Kate back to her place above Herman's hearty slice. Now in the comics, it was Clint who lives in a crummy flat, but this series has reversed it to put Kate in this setup. And we get a better look at this apartment, which is clearly just the upstairs dining room of the pizza shop with tables and chairs bolted to the floor. And on one table, she even left the salt and pepper shakers on it.
Nice place for her.
Shit, I was supposed to get some salt and pepper shakers last night when I was out. Fuck.
Yeah, same thing.
Now, who would Kate have inherited this from? Maybe it was one of the few joints that Derek still had the muscle to shake down, or maybe he had a legit pizza side business. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa D.
I've had over 40 pizzas in the last 30 days.
And Clint thinks the ages of 18 and 22 are essentially the same thing, but also when you consider that this is a world where a 5-year blip occurred, 18-year-olds who dusted should be 23, and when you got teenagers like Flash claiming to be drinking age, you just can't really trust these kids. By the way, if Kate Bishop is 22 now in the year 2024, that would make her 10 years old back in 2012, meaning she must have survived the snap, making her a fellow blip survivor like Clint, which would probably have hardened her, made her more self-reliant. And if you think about it, this is the first Marvel Disney Plus series to focus on 2 characters who both had to live through those 5 years. In her apartment, Kate also has a poster in French for fencing competition with a design using the same kind of impact line pattern similar to the series Target logo. It's not just archery she has to be super accurate for, it's everything. Now, as Kate comes back downstairs, notice the dog. Yeah, doggo runs upstairs. It might be because he senses trouble brewing outside. He's not the kind of dog that barks, as Clint noticed when he walked in. And that
that is a good detail.
Kicked him in the face is outside, and the doggy might smell his Axe body spray. Now, when they throw additional Molotov cocktails, Clint smartly breaks the window first so the bottle won't explode on the pane, which allows him to catch it and volley it. This is similar to a move Natasha made in Winter Soldier when she shot out the window glass first so that there would be less damage when something goes through it, in this case, her own body. Kate responds by shooting through the other flaming Molotov in the guy's hand, which if you think about it, returns the favor from when she was holding a bottle in her hand and they shot it out last episode. Then she shoots a fire extinguisher, and even though this was probably unintentional, it totally ricochets off the bullseye on her target. They pick up some Avengers supplies of Neosporin.
Let me guess, we're going to your safe house? Is it an Avengers tower?
No. Tony sold that a few years ago.
is so sad on so many levels.
We did see a peek of the former Avengers Tower back in episode 1, and hopefully we'll get some answers soon on who its new occupants are. In the past, I've theorized the Fantastic Four, making this a new Baxter building, but now I'm wondering it could be whoever wanted that Tony Stark watch, because they're the kind of person obsessed with collecting Stark memorabilia. For now, let's just assume it's gonna be Kingpin, because he's gonna be my Mephisto this series. Everything's Kingpin confirmed.
Same.
Kate takes them to the home of her aunt, Moira Brandon. Now, in the West Coast Avenger comics, Moira Brandon was the name of a movie star whose estate was turned into the Avengers compound. That would explain all the old movie posters decorating the apartment, including Creature of a Dark Galaxy, starring Moira Brandon, and Luke Ballard, who is a Marvel visual design artist, probably the prop guy who made this poster. Way to get your name in there, Luke. But on the buzzer of this apartment are several names. Most of them don't appear to refer to anyone specific, but there is a Jones and Gunther in 2E, maybe for Jessica Jones. Kate uses a frozen pizza to ice her wound, just like how she ices her wounds with frozen foods in the comic series, including actually a frozen pizza and a mugshot. Kate took notes and doodled what she could remember of the tracksuits. Joey's face is very white. I kind of feel like Dwight Schrute realizing I'm the perfect. Realizing a firefighter who took his Ronin suit is an NYC LARPer, Clint looks them up on Instagram.
People always like grills when you get a new costume. Your costume looks pretty bad. And how about now? You see me? Yeah, when you see me sneaking and creeping, it's too late. You're already dead. Ninja style.
He said his name was Grills. So in the comic series, Grills is one of Clint's neighbors who is named Grills because he grills on the roof. He's one of many tenants who end up standing up against the criminals in the neighborhood. Without saying too much, I'm now a bit worried for this guy since they had to name him Grills. Clint is right. Shit. Clint sends his kids home without him, and Nate is learning sign language. Just a little reminder early in this episode of Clint's hearing loss ahead of his encounter with Maya Lopez Echo, who is deaf, and that may be something that connects these two characters. Now, as Kate is watching the news blaming the Ronin for Armand's murder, the TV cuts to a commercial for Rogers the Musical. I love how this musical is basically becoming the triple dent gum of Hawkeye. And once we flash to the title screen of the 6 Avenger silhouettes, not only is Hawkeye small and in the background, he's actually nearly cropped out of the frame. As they go through Times Square, Kate asks about Clint's hearing aid, and he flashes back to the opening battle of Age of Ultron, his big jump in the Battle of New York, as we saw in the opening prologue scene of this series, and Thanos blowing up Avengers compound in Endgame, and when Clint was able to catch his breath in the rubble. Remember, in that moment, Clint was the only non-powered human Avenger with no armor protection when the compound got bombed. Rhodey and Scott had armor at least. Tony didn't survive the battle. Everyone else had superhuman enhancement. So it just makes sense that the surviving normal humans would walk away from all this with battle scars, and I really, really like this character development for Clint. Someone has to bear the burden of all this.
Too.
A kid runs past them to the other costume characters.
Puny tourist.
You know, it's Katniss Everdeen. Let's go.
Aha, so Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games is now MCU canon, along with Superman, Batman, and Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo this crap.
Notice how there are 2 Iron Mans and 2 Caps,
Yes.
a Hulk, a Thor, and an Ant-Man, and as they walk past them, it looks like that Iron Man slowly punches the Cap's shield, almost like they're reenacting Civil War. Kate says,
Your whole thing is that you're low-key. It's a very hard brand to sell.
I mean, being Loki's not that hard of a brand to sell. Sorry. But she does go on to say,
I think with all the scary stuff that's happened since the Avengers appeared, people don't want that cynical, cool thing anymore. They want sincerity.
yeah, I can't help but see this as a bit of meta commentary on the earlier
too.
Marvel films like The Avengers, in which Joss Whedon filled those scripts with cynical, cool dialogue, a tone that the MCU has gradually evolved over the years with more sincere, heartfelt moments. Kate is suspicious of Jack about Armand's death. Yeah, Tony Dalton blinks a few extra times here, which you would think is a sign of nervousness, but I think it's an on-the-nose sign of guilt that he wants Kate to read into. Just because Jack is so obviously someone who is involved with Armand's death, and in classic mystery structure, you always throw out a red herring character. Not saying Jack didn't kill Armand, I think he's still the likeliest suspect, I just think there's more to the story. And right now he might be intentionally attempting to keep Kate's eyes on him so as to keep her from digging deeper into the real conspiracy behind the murder. Clint eventually tracks down the LARPers and he sees Grills trying to impress someone by sliding his sword across the back of his gauntlet, the same way Clint cleaned the blood off his blade in Tokyo and Endgame. I like how all the characters in this universe clearly just watched the MCU movies that we watched. Like, Grills wasn't hanging out in Tokyo, how would they know that's how he cleaned his blade? The dead serious LARPer explains,
The live action role play is, this whole thing.
If you think about it, she is making pretty much the same point that Kate was making. Clint's participation in the Avengers has been kind of a LARP on a higher stage. And of all of them, he's been the least willing to embrace the whole performative aspect. She points out how most of the LARPers are firefighters and cops, the first responders tasked with keeping people safe like Clint is. But these guys are willing to let their inner nerds shine. And that's what Clint has to do. So he lets Grills fake kill him.
I fought Thanos.
I think it's interesting for Clint to say it like that because while he was certainly there for the Battle of Earth, we never actually saw him fighting Thanos one-on-one in that battle. Like, he wasn't in the opening charge. He was kind of on a side mission to play keep away with the Stark Gauntlet. But there was one deleted scene in Endgame that would have shown Clint and Natasha engaging Thanos' forces directly on Vormir as they hustle to get off the cliff. I think I would have liked that version better, honestly. But despite Clint telling her not to contact him unless in an emergency, Kate immediately texts him a whole bunch of times.
I think it's fair to say he fought Thanos because everybody there was fighting Thanos. If you're fighting Thanos' guard, his people, you're fighting Thanos. You can twist those words a little bit, and I think it's valid. I believe Hawkeye.
Reminding us of Peter Parker's multiple unanswered texts to Happy Hogan in Homecoming. And Kate gets a call from Detective Cottle, another character from the Fraction comics, a Santa Monica detective whom Kate tells to arrest Flint Ward, a jerk who burns down a flower shop and then gets sprung free by Madame Mask, a villain who many of us think Eleanor Bishop could be revealed to be in this series. During the LARP duel, Clint refuses to drink the invisible potion, which I assume will be revealed to be Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man when No Way Home comes out. Also, let's remember, drinking a potion before a duel is what happens in Black Panther at Warrior Falls, but in that case it depowers them. And speaking of Black Panther, right before the duel, Clint had said to Grills,
I don't care.
just as T'Challa said to Clint when they met in Battle in Civil War.
I'm Clint.
I don't care.
And then Clint has this tense exchange with Grills.
You ready? I'm begging you.
Much like the seriousness he showed when he wanted Natasha to let him give up his life, but like Natasha, Grills is really the one we have to worry about here. Clint stashes the suit in a gym locker and calls his wife, Laura.
Let me hang on to it for insurance, at least until I clear things up with the old tracksuit, friends.
Jesus, not those idiots.
I'm not sure how high it goes up, so let's go stick around a little bit longer.
What's the play?
Little catch release.
One of Nat's old moves.
Yeah, it's always interesting how plugged in Laura is to Clint's tactics and his mission. I've always wondered if Marvel could plan to reveal her as a retired Mockingbird. Not necessarily retconning the character of Bobby Morse in the comics, who also appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like Black Widow or Captain America, Mockingbird could be kind of a legacy title that's passed down among different people. Also, we get another hint from Clint that we are not sure how high this goes, implying a kind of criminal hierarchy that may go all the way up to a kingpin. And catch and release being one of Nat's old moves recalls the 2012 Avengers film when she allowed herself to be tied to a chair by her captives that she was actually truly targeting. Kate challenges Jack to a casual round of after-dinner fencing, as one does.
Honey, be careful. When am I not careful? I was talking to Jack.
Eleanor, wine in hand, doesn't really object that much to freaking swordplay in a confined room. Just getting some major Emperor Palpatine vibes from this one. Do it. Afterward, Eleanor assures Kate that everything will be okay.
But we know what comes next for you, right? You'll graduate, and in the fall, you'll start working at Bishop Security for real, right? Like we've always planned.
Like you've always planned.
Yeah, really seems like Eleanor has groomed Kate to be her own personal weapon and potentially assassin in her shady security company. Jack jokes,
it's not the first time somebody tried to take my head off.
Yeah, we don't see Eleanor's expression, but I have a few follow-ups, like, who tried to decapitate you, and was it Eleanor, Armand, Echo, or Kingpin? And will you get beheaded by the end of the season, because that's now what I'm expecting. And he offers Kate an Armand III butterscotch, just like the ones from the Bolt in Armand's home, which again, just seems like a bit too obvious of a smoking gun, something he probably knows will trigger Kate, echoing his risotto metaphor earlier about agitating it to just the right amount. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a red herring, both for Kate and for us. And Jack is intentionally calling attention to himself to keep Kate from asking who else was involved with Armand's murder. Kate uses a Bishop security app to track Clint using his phone number, an app that seems a bit suspicious for them to even have. Her login is Bishop112012, which could be for November 20th, 2012, or just the month of November 2012, which in current MCU history, nothing really major happens other than it would be 6 months after the Battle of New York and might be when Eleanor Bishop launched the company and created this account for Kate. And in real life history, November 21st, 2012 was the publishing date of the 4th issue of the series this show is based on, in which S.H.I.E.L.D. assigns Clint to retrieve the incriminating tape from the auction. Now, I did try to figure out what password she's typing in. It is very much a random string of numbers from Hailee Steinfeld just tapping the screen in the insert, and then they later VFX'd all the dots coming in. Like at one point, like none of her fingers are tapping anything and dots are still coming in.
Yeah,
But
she was
Clint's
tapping
phone number
the
is 212-188-3522.
she was tapping the bar to drag
They
this
didn't do
the
a
app
555.
away
I did
a
try to
few
call it.
times.
It was
Not even
a
hitting
connected
any of the
number.
buttons.
But it is a New York City area code, which is interesting, meaning Clint must have kept his number while working with the Avengers out of New York, despite living the past several years in Missouri. Clint tries to smooth talk the tracksuits, including Kazi the clown, who seems like their boss, but they mentioned she wants him alive. And Kate drops in, making both of them hostages, and the tracksuits report this to their boss.
We have them both. We have.
I like this song playing too.
Yes. Alaqua Cox is playing Maya Lopez, aka Echo, the Native American death vigilante in the comics with connections to Kingpin, and confirmed now to be getting her own spin-off series on Disney+. But what does she want with Kate and Clint? Well, it seems like most characters of this world still don't yet know that Clint was the Ronin himself, but at the very least, this gang suspects that Clint and Kate are at least associated with the Ronin figure. Now, in addition to the Ronin making enemies with all of organized crime, as we learned from the auctioneer last episode, there was that one detail from Avengers Endgame that Rhodey mentioned of the Ronin slaughtering a cartel in Mexico. So Maya Lopez could have had a relative or associate in that group that Clint killed, and now Ronin has been on her vengeance list. But either way, everyone in New York's organized crime operations hates the Ronin, and these two are obviously associated with him. Now, the character of Echo in the comics has photographic reflexes, abilities similar to Taskmaster, and on Inside Marvel, MT theorized that introducing Echo in this red-lit room could be a clue to her past, perhaps as one of the liberated Widow agents of the KGB Red Room in Black Widow. Remember, the MCU has suggested that these Widow agents have spread far and wide
more
after
of like
those
a
events,
Daredevil
and one of them
hint.
reappeared in the background of Shang-Chi, telling us that widows could end up in all sorts of places of the criminal underworld of the MCU. Now, in the Black Widow film, hundreds of women's faces flashed across the screen, showing that there were widows
it
all
could be
around
this,
the
but-
world. There was one of them who we thought looked a bit similar to Alaqua Cox, though the nose is different, but the implication could still be the same. They could give Echo a new backstory as an ex-widow that would help explain her Taskmaster-esque fighting skills, and could tie her into the backstory of Clint's late friend Natasha, as well as Yelena Belova, whom we know will cross over into the series after being tasked by Val to hunt Clint down in the Black Widow post-credit scene. So, is Echo the ultimate boss that the Tracksuit Mafia works for? Well, I don't think the top boss would need to be on site like this. That's never how it works. So my guess is that Echo reports to someone. That someone could be Eleanor
Uncle.
or Jack, maybe even Val, maybe even Kingpin, because there's always a bigger Fisk. But one last detail, during the animated
Good one.
end credit
Good one,
sequence,
Eric.
we see some coins being flung at bottles and one gets smashed. In the comics, Clint's brother Barney, aka Trickshot, taught him how to aim coins at bottles just like this. To support this channel, check out our great merch
Cool.
options at newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow me on Instagram,
All right,
Twitter,
this one,
at EA
like
Boss,
this
follow
one
New Rockstars.
specifically, I was like, okay, well, I've seen episode 3, so I could kind of see where I got to think about this because he doesn't have episode 3 as context as I'm like making my little comments throughout this. But it's nice seeing it like the train of logic that he's following from the first 2 episodes onward, because it's not too far off. I thought the red lighting was just mood lighting to kind of set the tone and whatever, and it could have been more of a hint towards the Daredevil connection that she's got. Not saying that they're going to necessarily definitively go that route in here, but I thought maybe it might just be an homage to her Daredevil connections and roots from the comics. And he's definitely sniffing up the right tree, I think, with this whole like Kingpin thing. Whether or not it ends up actually being Vincent D'Onofrio or Kingpin himself, there is definitely a figure that is like that is coming. So we'll see. Guys, what'd you think of this breakdown? I was gonna say this episode. This episode breakdown. Sound in the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Feel free to join me in our Discord as well. We can talk about Hawkeye there and many other things. Links to that and all my socials down below. Before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends: Mandy Sherrod, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, Yori Korskov, Margaret Grace, Mary Bradley, Jeffrey Hale, and various abominations. Thank you guys so much for your support. Join me in episode 3's breakdown here after this. See you guys next time. Take care, everybody.